I didn't realize I was losing them while it was happening. I thought I had time. Everyone thinks that.
75 years old now, and I say that out loud sometimes just to hear how it sounds. 75. It feels heavier when I say it than when I think it. I live alone, and most days the only thing that answers back is the clock in the kitchen, still ticking like it expects something from me. This morning, I opened a box I hadn't touched in decades, and inside were the letters I should have burned. That's when I realized the day I stopped calling home wasn't a single day at all. It was a slow forgetting, and I let it happen. I didn't wake up one morning and decide to disappear. It didn't feel cruel at the time. It felt practical. Life was busy. Life was loud. Life always had a reason. There was work, and then there was more work, and then there was the promise that things would slow down once I got past the next milestone. I kept telling myself that. Just get through this year. Just finish this project. Just make enough money that I could finally breathe. And somewhere in there, the phone stopped ringing as often. Or maybe it kept ringing and I just let it ring. I tell myself I loved my parents. I think that's true. But love, when it's left unattended, turns quiet. It doesn't disappear all at once. It just stops asking for your time. I grew up in a small house that always smelled like coffee and something frying. My mother was up before the sun every day, even on Sundays. My father left early and came home tired, and I thought that was just what being a man looked like. He didn't talk much about feelings, but he fixed things. If something broke, he stayed up late until it worked again. I learned early that being useful mattered more than being present. At least, that's what I thought I learned. When I left home in my 20s, it felt like freedom. I was finally becoming someone. I had a job with a title that sounded important when I said it out loud. I wore jackets I couldn't afford and shoes that hurt my feet. I called home every Sunday night, like clockwork. My mother would ask if I was eating enough. My father would ask how work was going. I'd answer quickly, already half gone, already thinking about Monday. Then Sundays got busy, or I was tired, or I told myself I'd call tomorrow. Tomorrow turned into next week turned into holidays. When I did call, the conversations felt shorter, thinner. I talked about promotions and deadlines. They talked about weather and neighbors I barely remembered. It felt like we were speaking different languages, and instead of learning theirs again, I leaned harder into mine. I didn't notice the cost at first. There was always another reason. The phone bill was high. Time zones were annoying. I assumed they understood. I assumed they knew I loved them. I assumed there would always be time to explain. The letters started around then. My mother wrote them first. Her handwriting slanted a little to the right, like it was always leaning toward whoever was reading. She wrote about small things, a new curtain, a neighbor's dog, my father's back acting up again. At first, I read them and meant to respond. I even drafted replies in my head while driving to work. But putting words on paper felt harder than thinking them, and thinking them felt like enough. When my father started writing too, I felt something tighten in my chest. He wasn't a letter writer. His sentences were short, functional. He asked practical questions. Was I saving money? Did I like where I lived? Did I need anything? I told myself I'd answer him properly when I had more time, when I wasn't so tired, when I wasn't so busy becoming who I thought I needed to be. I met my wife in my 30s. She was kind in a way that didn't demand attention. We built a life that looked good from the outside: house, career, social obligations. We hosted dinners. We sent cards at Christmas. I told her about my parents, but not much. She asked once why I didn't call them more. I said they were fine. I said they understood. I said things I wanted to believe. Years passed like that, quietly, efficiently. I sent money when they needed it. I visited when guilt outweighed inconvenience. Each visit felt a little more awkward than the last. My mother hugged me longer. My father seemed smaller. I noticed things I didn't know how to talk about, so I didn't. The day I really stopped calling home didn't come with an announcement. It came disguised as responsibility, a deadline, a meeting I couldn't miss. I remember standing in my office late one night, staring at the phone, knowing it was my mother's birthday. I told myself I'd call in the morning. Morning came with emails and emergencies. By the time I remembered again, it felt too late. Calling late felt worse than not calling at all. That was my logic then. It sounds thin now. The letters kept coming for a while, then less often, then mostly from my mother, then only from her. I noticed the change, but I didn't ask about it. I was afraid of the answer, afraid of what I might owe. When my father died, I got the call from a neighbor, not from my mother. She was too upset to speak, or maybe she didn't think I'd come. I don't know. I flew in for the funeral, said the right things, stood in the right places. I left a few days later because work was waiting. I hugged my mother goodbye and promised I'd call more. I believed myself when I said it. I didn't. After that, the letters changed. My mother's handwriting shook. The sentences wandered. She asked the same questions she had asked before. Sometimes she'd write about my father as if he were still alive. I told myself it was too painful to correct her, or maybe it was too painful to engage at all. I put the letters in a box. I told myself I'd read them properly one day, when I was ready. Then the letters stopped. I don't remember exactly when I found out she'd gone. I remember the feeling, though. A hollow, stunned quiet. Like walking into a room after the music has stopped and realizing you missed the last song. I stood in my kitchen with the phone in my hand, and there was no one left to call home. Life went on. That's the part no one tells you how to prepare for. It just keeps going. My marriage faded the way many do, not with drama, just with distance. We were polite until we weren't anything at all. Friends moved away. Work eventually stopped calling too. Retirement arrived without ceremony. One day I was needed, the next day I wasn't. The box stayed in the closet all those years. I moved houses twice and carried it with me, unopened. I told myself it was better not to look, better to let the past stay quiet. But quiet has a way of getting loud when you're alone long enough. This morning I opened it. The smell of old paper hit me first, dust and time. I sat on the floor like a child and started reading. Letters I'd skimmed, letters I'd ignored, letters I'd never opened at all. My mother telling me she was proud of me. My father apologizing for not knowing how to say things out loud, asking if I was happy, saying he hoped I was. There were things in those letters I never knew, fears they never shared on the phone, loneliness they didn't want to burden me with, a life continuing quietly without me. I read until my eyes burned and my hands shook. I kept thinking I should have burned these, not because they're painful, but because keeping them unopened was its own kind of cruelty. I talk to them sometimes now, not because I believe they can hear me, but because the words have nowhere else to go. I tell them I was scared, that I didn't know how to be both successful and present, that I thought providing from a distance counted as love. I tell them I was wrong. If you're listening to this and you still have someone to call home, I won't tell you what to do. I'm not here to give advice. I'll just tell you this. Time doesn't announce when it's running out. It just gets quieter. And one day you realize the phone hasn't rung in a very long time. The world didn't end when they were gone. That's what surprised me. It just kept making room. And one day I noticed I was still in it.